Hey friends, it's Gloria and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be doing the mid-year freakout tag, but my own version. I don't know. I didn't do this video in 2024, but I've done it all the previous years on BookTube, and it's basically a mid-year check-in talking about the last 6 months of my reading that I've done from January through June, and some new standout books, the biggest disappointments, things that I've noticed about my reading, that kind of stuff. Let's get into the questions. It should be fun to review my reading year so far. It's been an interesting one. First off is like the stats. How many books, what kind, all that kind of stuff. So I've read a total of 165 books, but I also count all of the board books and picture books I read my son in Goodreads. But in Storygraph and Fable, different apps, I don't put it on my board books. I'm around 112 books, and that's a lot. I didn't expect to read so much this year, but I'm still chugging along. I'm still a very big reader, and I've read some fun things that have kept me really interesting. I've also read a lot of mediocre stuff, which is most of my reading. The biggest things that have changed is what I'm reading. Historical fiction is still number one, top of the list, always will be. I would be shocked if that is ever dethroned from number one. So historical is still up there, but then romance is number two. Last month, I think I recognized I'm a romance reader. Like, that is the theme that I've been reading this year and that I want to read more of. And I'll get into maybe why in a little bit, but romance is number two, and then fantasy is number three. I know I'm not a fantasy girl and I'm not a romance girl, but what am I doing with those in my top three genres? I don't know. Like, nonfiction is barely on here. I mean, contemporary comes in the top five, but no classics, like barely any classics this year. Very little graphic novels, stuff that I fell in love with in the beginning of my reading. So I'm thinking that I need to change some things in the latter half of the year, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, very different genre mix than I think the last 4 years in my booktube journey. I still primarily love audiobooks. That is my go-to format, but I have been reading more ebooks than ever because I've been reading a lot of fan fiction, which are e-copies that I download onto my Kindle. But mostly if I'm reading a novel or nonfiction, usually it's audiobooks. That is my go-to format. Average rating is 3.38. I don't think it will ever be a 4 or higher, or even like 3.75. My ratings are always going to be low because I read so many books that are 3 stars, and I'm not afraid to give out low ratings. I have not DNF'd very much this year at all. Maybe one book. So that's probably a me thing. I need to DNF more. Or maybe it's not. I don't know. I have a few books that I'll talk about in a minute that I probably should have DNF'd. But let's talk about the positives. What are the best favorite reads of the year so far? Not too many, but I have 3 books to mention. I think the number one favorite read out of this top 3, even though all 3 were 5 stars and I loved. The first one is Edenbrook by Julianne Donaldson. This is a wholesome, sweet, proper Regency romance. It's very clean. I think they're young characters, like teenage characters, maybe like 18, and then the guy's like 22 or something. And it was just the sweetest, most wholesome thing ever. I want more books like this, but I don't know if they exist. I'm sure they do, but I don't want it to be cheesy. This was just, it just was so sweet. I don't need to really explain the plot. We just have 2 sisters, sister dynamics, someone that you maybe shouldn't be with because they belong to someone else. There's a growing in friendship and understanding, which leads to romance. And it was just very pure and heartwarming. I loved my time with this one, ate this book up, and bought it because I needed it on my shelves. I think this is a book that I would recommend to young teenage girls that want to read romance. Like, 16-year-old Gloria would have died over reading this book. Then a book I read in January, which was so great. Marmee, a novel of Little Women by Sarah Miller. This is a Little Women retelling the events of the beloved classic told through Marmee's perspective, who is the mother figure in the original classic. This book is told through all her journal entries. So she recounts certain events from her perspective, what she's feeling, what she's thinking, her prayers, her thoughts, her anger and sadness. She is a feminist. She also talks a little bit more about her marriage and the different things that she experienced, different losses as well. And I just loved reading from her perspective, loved her character. I thought Sarah Miller did such a fantastic job of bringing Marmee more to life from the original classic. So if you are a fan of Little Women and you have not read this, I would highly, highly recommend. I loved it. I think those two paired together just go so well for me. I'm realizing that if I love a book like Little Women, like Pride and Prejudice, like Harry Potter, I am then seeking out other books like it without it being it. So I love these kind of fan fictions retellings. It's definitely a theme this year. Also last year I kind of uncovered it. So this one just hit all the marks. And then my third favorite of the year, speaking of Harry Potter fan fiction, was The Disappearances of Draco Malfoy. Now, without the full story, I got into Harry Potter fan fiction. I'll talk about that in a minute too. But this is the best one that I've read, and it was brilliant. It was fantastic. It was completely true in tone with the original books. This is an alternate retelling universe of the last book of Harry Potter, so The Deathly Hallows. If Basically, Draco Malfoy decided to join the Order of the Phoenix when Dumbledore gave him the opportunity, and then he joined Harry, Ron, and Hermione to hunt Horcruxes and discover the Deathly Hallows. And it is his full character journey and arc. And there's a very sweet, wholesome, just totally appropriate romance between him and Hermione, which I loved. There's no adult sexual content, there's no language. This, again, was very true in tone to the original story, and it was written really well, unlike so much other fan fiction, let me tell you, because the writer of this is an actual author. She does write mostly young adult sci-fi books, but this was such a good time. And if you're a Harry Potter fan, would highly recommend. If you want a little bit twist of an ending, just want something a little bit different, but are missing the Harry Potter world, but don't want to read the whole series again, it was such a good time. I loved this one. And the next question is, what's a new favorite author? I have a couple answers to this. She's not necessarily a new favorite author, but I read 3 books from her. I don't have any really desire to read more from her unless she comes out with something new. But the first book of this series was published in 2009, and that is The Bronze Horseman. I read this entire trilogy, and it was an epic journey of a time. I binge read through it. I read the entire thing in a month, which I think was somewhere around 2,800 pages. It was a wild ride, and it was an epic, historical, sweeping saga, a love story, a family story, a war story, and it was wild, a wild time. I can't fully say that I enjoyed everything about this book. It has a lot of trigger warnings. It has a lot of content that I don't always love to read, and I didn't agree with everything the characters did and the choices that were happening and how long the author focused on certain things. But overall, the whole series was a wild ride, and I enjoyed my time. And she is a favorite author because I read 3 of her books, and this one I gave like a 4.5, the second one I gave a 4, the third one was like a 2.75. It wasn't a favorite, but it was a journey. And I guess I'll keep my eye out for what she comes out with next if she does, but I don't really have a desire to read her older things or other books that are kind of in the world with these characters. Then 2 more recent reads that I enjoyed was The Help by Catherine Stockett. This is a beloved, big, huge hit, and I mentioned that I was surprised she hadn't come up with something new, and one of you commented that she does have a new book coming out in 2026 called The Calamity Club. There's no cover yet to be revealed, but it's going to be set in Mississippi in the 1930s. So definitely a great historical fiction read, and I will be curious to be picking that one up next year. I'm assuming that's going to be a big hit next year. We'll be keeping an eye out on Catherine Stockett. Similarly, I will talk about this book, spoiler, in my June wrap up, but I enjoyed The Jackal's Mistress by Chris Bajalian. He is a very prolific author who has tons of books, so a lot to choose from. This is his most newest release, and I liked it quite a bit, so I'm very intrigued to read more from him. If you've read any of his books and have enjoyed them, please let me know. Where should I go next? I own Midwives, or The Midwives, which sounds intriguing, and he has like a book about everything, it seems like, so I don't know where to go next, but I do want to read more from him because I had a great time with this one. Next question, biggest surprise, good or bad? I mentioned Harry Potter fanfiction, and the book that started it all is Manacled by Sen Lin Yu, a very popular dark Harry Potter fanfiction, very bleak, gruesome, horrific and intense and violent and adult and graphic. All of the warnings. Why did I want to read it? I don't know, because I love the Harry Potter series that much, and I heard a couple people read this and talk about it as their favorite reads last year, and I was like, I'll check it out. It changed my reading life for the year. This wasn't the favorite. Like I mentioned, the Disappearances book I liked a lot more, but this book totally pivoted my reading into reading more Harry Potter fanfiction. It will be traditionally published this year, and I have zero desire to read that because I don't want to read dark romance. Like, that's not a genre that I like to read. I'm only dabbling in it for the sake of the Harry Potterness of it all. This is a dark world of if Voldemort won and Hermione's imprisoned and her mind is shut down. She doesn't remember what happened, but she's sent to be a slave for Draco Malfoy, and there's a whole dynamic. There's multiple timelines because we get flashbacks into what she went through during the war and then the ramifications of it afterwards, and it was a journey. And I will say this like blew up my world with the Harry Potter world of it all. It changed my perspective on the original series and the way I think about certain things, and again it made me go into this deep dark rabbit hole. But I found a new favorite book out of it, The Disappearances of Draco Malfoy book. That was so fun, and I never would have heard of it or picked it up if I hadn't read this first and then went down the journey. Next is what was the biggest disappointment. The book that I gave the lowest rating to this year so far, I ranted about last month. You can hear more of my thoughts there, but it was To Heaven to Hoax by Martha Waters. I was looking for more sweet romantic Regency romance like this, and I was recommended this, not from anyone, but from like the internet, and it was absolute garbage. Full miscommunication book, and I just thought it was awful. an awful time. I hated everything about it. A couple other disappointments were some new releases that I was anticipating and I did not enjoy them whatsoever. Blackwood's Blue Sky by Ewan Ivy. I loved her other book, Snow Child, before, and this one was just way too weird, way too creepy, way too strange, very bestiality focused, set in the summer in Alaska. The nature rating was excellent, but everything else about this book was a big, huge flop. And then Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. Not good. Happy Place is still my least favorite and the worst one, but this comes in a close second of being her worst book. It wasn't good at all. Next is a book that made me cry. I don't think any books actively made me cry, but the Bronze Horseman world, this whole epic series, was very emotional and heart-wrenching at times and devastating and just an epic journey. Like I said, lots of highs and lows, lots of emotions, lots of everything you're going through with these characters. And yeah, it was an emotional read. I don't remember if any tears were actually shed. I don't cry very often in books, but yeah, this was intense. A book that made me happy, Aiden Brooke, like I said, already mentioned it, but two other ones, a middle grade and a children's book. Middle grade was Wildflower Emily. This was such a sweet, wonderful graphic novel. If you love Emily Dickinson and you love poetry or you love children's graphic novels, this one, perfect. Also the cover, the artwork, it was beautiful. Highly, highly recommend. And then also the children's picture book I read, The Little Blue Cottage, was adorable and sweet. Reminded me a lot of Sophie Blackall's works, and I just had a great time reading through this one too. It was very sweet about a little home and a family. Those books definitely made me happy. The next question is a book you learned the most from. Like I said, I've read so little nonfiction this year that it kind of breaks my heart. But I did read a parenting book that I thought was excellent, very practical, good advice, like great all around, very applicable to my current life situation, and that is How to Talk So Little Kids Will Listen, a survival guide to life with children ages 2 to 7. Great audiobook, very practical, like I said, good takeaways. I thought that this was very informative and I learned a lot. Next is, what is the most beautiful book you bought or received? And I have bought very little this year. Purchased very few books, which I'm okay with, but I have 2 historical fiction books that I think are actually very beautifully designed. If you know me at all, I always go on about how ugly historical fiction books are. The covers are atrocious. They're all the women walking away with the airplane in the background. They're all just so bad, so badly designed, and it's my favorite genre and it breaks my heart. But I have 2 that are actually pretty good. I think that Vanessa Riley's book covers are beautiful. This is Island Queen, and I just love the like hand paintedness of it. I love the font. I think it's a beautiful, like for a person being on the cover, I think it's a good one. This one set in the Caribbean and it's about a real person. And this is one of my first books that I have sprayed edges of, even though the sprayed edges aren't anything amazing, but that is kind of a fun thing. This is The Girls of Good Fortune by Christina McMorris, a new release by her. And I actually went to the author event and she brought up how the first cover design was like a woman walking away, and she's like, she was dressed in like Edwardian clothes, even though this has to do with anti-Chinese sentiment in Oregon in the 1800s. She was like, why is that my cover design? But then she had someone else design this, and she's like, thank goodness. She loved the red. It's very bold. This looks kind of like a fantasy title, which maybe means more people will pick it up. I don't know, but I actually do like the cover design. Good gold foiling. It gives off some Asian-y feels without it being too, you know, on the nose. So those are 2 historical fiction books that I own that actually like the covers up. What's a new release you haven't read but want to? Girls of Good Fortune. I bought this book. I went to the author event. I want to read it. I'm excited about it. It's about my local Oregon history that I should know more about. So definitely one I want to read. And then One Good Thing by Georgia Hunter is also a book I really enjoyed. We Were the Lucky Ones. And that is a new release that's on my radar. Hope to get it read by the end of the summer if I can squeeze it in. But that one is set in Italy in World War II, which I don't necessarily want to read World War II. I'm a little bit sick of it, just a little bit. But I want to try this author, and it's a new release. So the next question is a new release for the second half of the year. And let me tell you, nothing came to mind. And then I did a quick perusal in hopes of answering this question, and literally nothing. There is nothing coming out that has piqued my interest. I'm sure that there will be some books that come out that catch my attention and then I will put a hold on Libby and hope to squeeze in by the end of the year, maybe in time for the Goodreads Choice Awards or whatever. But at the moment, not a one. There's zero temptation. I feel like everything coming out is either fantasy stuff that I don't care about, thrillers that I don't care about. Like, I don't have any nonfiction on my radar or any historical fiction that is coming out in the second half of the year that is intriguing to me. So you let me know if you're anticipating something that you think I'd like. Let me know what it is. Maybe I'll keep an eye out for it. But am I missing anything? The next question is, what was your favorite book to screen adaptation? I have watched so little this year, let alone any screen adaptation. I was super sick, so I caught up on my Survivor. I'm a huge Survivor fan, love it, love the show. It was a great season. I'm currently watching The Pit with my husband, which is an HBO medical drama about the ER, like the emergency room, and it's actually very well done, very medically accurate. I watched The Materialists. The advertising got me, my goodness. I got so many ads served about Dakota and Pedro Pascal and Chris Evans, and it was cute. It was a cute little rom-com, some interesting themes, but it was a good time. I enjoyed it. I actually went to the movies by myself, cute little solo date, and I had a great time. But there are 4 shows or movies out or coming out that I'm interested in, so I'll mention those. Miss Austen is a recently adapted, it was a book first. I do want to read the book first, and then there's a show that came out that people have been receiving well, so interested in that. I love a little, you know, drama period time piece. I watched the trailer to Jane Austen Wrecked My Life. I'll link it down below, and I thought that was going to be a fun movie. I haven't seen it, don't know anything about it, don't know if it's any good, but it looks cute, so I would watch that. And then 2 movies coming out towards the end of the year. The first one is the newest and last Downton Abbey movie, the grand finale, which I'm like, why are they coming out with movies? I wish they did the show. If they were going to continue on with actors, they should have just done the show. I love the show. The movies I think have been just okay, but there is a new movie coming out for those of you that are Downton Abbey fans. I think I'd still watch it. And then Wake Up Dead Man, the next Knives Out installment. My husband and I love Knives Out. Glass Onion was okay. We didn't love it. It was fine. And then this one, I don't know, set in the South, but Daniel Craig is still the same, like detective or whatever. So I didn't really answer the question, but I answered the question, you know? Next question is, do you feel your reading tastes have changed or shifted at all this year? New genre you love, new favorite trope theme? Yes. I feel like I've already answered this question, but yes, I'm a romance reader now. I don't know if it's the fan fiction stuff, I don't know what's going on, but I'm in a romantic mood, and I feel like if the book doesn't have a romantic subplot, I just kind of can't care about it anymore, which is weird. I'm just kind of in the mood for romantic reading at the moment, and I still love my historical, so that's not changing. But yeah, fantasy, reading more fantasy, again, more on the fan fiction side of things. I'm dipping my toe into trying more new fantasy in the summer season, and I don't know, it's just so hard. I don't like it but I want to like it, but I don't like it. So romance and retellings, alternate endings, stories that I'm familiar with told in a new way, I feel like those are the kinds of things that have been piquing my interest as of late. Second to last question, if you set any bookish goals for yourself this year, how are they going? I did not set any goals. I'm a full-time mom of a 1.5-year-old, and I work part-time, and I'm trying to keep up with life, and I love books, and I love reading, and I love booktube, and I don't want any pressure. I am such a mood reader. I try to do events when I can, but for the most part, I just read whatever I want whenever I want. Goals don't really mean anything to me right now. It's just like whatever. So I didn't really do that. I mean, in my mind, my goals are TBRs. So if I set a TBR, I'd like to read the books that I say that I'm going to read. I don't set TBRs very often. They're usually just seasonal, and I am such a seasonal reader. So I've been okay at sticking to my TBRs, I think. And then my unsaid goal was to read more books from my shelves, which I think I'm doing okay at. I do want to do another purge. I think I'm in the mood to get rid of some more books. I did purge a bunch when I tried the first chapter of all my World War II historical fiction books, and I feel like I kind of need to try the chapter of every single book on my shelf. And any that don't sound good and don't pique my interest, I'll just get rid of. So I still think I might do that before the summer's up. And then what do I want to read next, or by the end of the year? And right now it's the end of June when I'm filming this. I posted my summer TBR. Those are the books that are at the top of my priority list, the top of my mind the most. I'm in the mood to read in the next couple months. So I don't really have any particular goals by the end of the year. I haven't been too great at my 25 books in 2025. So I do want to focus on those, but maybe that's towards the latter half of the year. Right now I just want the summery reads. So that is how my reading year has been so far. Here's hoping for better things ahead for all of us as we read some good books in this second half of the year. Please let me know what your absolute favorite book is that you have read so far this year, and maybe one recommendation for me. I love your guys' recommendations. Thanks for watching, spending some time today with me, and I'll see you in another book video soon. Bye.